Good evening. I need a motion to reopen the regular meeting of the Bronxville Board of Trustees.
So moved.
And a second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. And ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have two very positive presentations, and we're starting with our Bronxville Rotary Club. And I see we have our president, and John, what is your role?
I'm just a member.
A member, all right. You are past president. So Nicola and John, would you like to come up and introduce yourself to our TV audience and talk about the really nice reason we're here tonight?
Hi, my name is John Fitzgerald, and I am from the Bronxville Rotary Club, a 40-year member. I am here because the club wants to honor a distinguished and deceased member, Peter Bertine, who passed away in 2020. He was an attorney with the law firm of Bertine, Huffnagel, and Headley, located in Bronxville and Scarsdale. He was involved in many causes in Bronxville, such as the Rotary Club. He was past president, the Community Fund, Lawrence Hospital. In his later years, Peter is noted for his petitions to the higher courts of New York and the United States in successful efforts to preserve nature, and in particular, the Adirondack Park. When the law firm moved to Scarsdale, Peter, being a loyal Bronxville man, stayed. He was especially involved with the Bicentennial Park, which is why we're here. The park was originally called Christmas Tree Lot in 1978. This 9,770 square foot site was weed infested until the Bronxville Rotary Club raised funds to purchase the land and transformed it into a West Pocket park. The Rotary Club gave the park to the village of Bronxville in April 27, 1987. This is where Peter comes into play. He spent many hours attending village trustee meetings over many years to have the park cared for by the village in perpetuity. Peter, along with Frank Headley, another Bronxville Rotary member, incorporated Bicentennial Park Committee, thus allowing all donors to claim IRS deductions. The Boulder Ledge Garden Club completed the plantings and maintained maintenance of the plantings. The park became a regular daytime play site for students, strollers, nannies, au pairs, and young moms. The park is grateful for the village DPW for the meticulous maintenance of the Bicentennial Park over the past 45 years. Now, what we want to do, what the club wants to do is place a plaque, either 9 by 6 or 10 by 8, affixed to the back of the stone that has the Bicentennial plaque, if possible.
Do you have a picture?
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you, certainly.
You may approach the bench.
You may, yeah. And Nikki, do you just want to, I want people to know who you are as well.
Hi, I'm sorry. I am Nikki Standard, president of the Bronxville Rotary Club for last Rotary year and this Rotary year, too.
And affiliated with Apple Bank.
Right here in the village
Yes.
of Bronxville.
Yeah, thank you. You've done a great job, and I just wanted the audience to know you as well.
Thank you.
The plaque will read simply, the Bronxville Rotary honors Peter K. Bertine, 1936 2020 Friend of the Park.
So we just passed it around.
And that's the stone, you might all recognize it, that it's the stone that says Bicentennial Park now, right on the corner of Pond.
Right.
Might be able to put it right on the back of it.
Can I speak on behalf of us? We discussed this in our work session, and I believe that this group is in more than in favor of doing this. And I think it's a really beautiful size. It says exactly what you want to say, and we'd be proud to do that.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate you taking care of the park, the village, DPW. They've done a great job, so thank you.
And they work so well with Boulder Ledge. I have to thank, because they're a team with the garden club too. So it helps, so.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to go back to the board and let them know that.
Yes, and thank everyone at the Rotary.
Yes.
We were talking about all that you did at the start of COVID, all that you do fundraise. You fundraised for the Giving Garden for us. You started that. So please
We're
tell.
fundraising again. in May.
Okay.
Groundwork Hudson Valleys are
Oh, good. So please tell the members it's noticed and appreciated. Okay. Thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have another equally nice presentation for the evening. And Richard, will you introduce both of you tonight and talk to us about the Eastchester Historical Society?
Yes, I just learned that Peter Pertine passed away, and I had a wonderful experience with Peter when we were doing living history tours of Eastchester, Tuckahoe, and Bronxville. The Pertines are Huguenots who came to Westchester County in 1682, and they were very important. And what does it have to do with the Eastchester Historical Society? Peter donated the entire genealogical history of his family, every major war, from the French and Indian War to the Vietnam War. The Pertines were involved. Now let me get to the Eastchester Historical Society, which was started in 1958, and it's dedicated to preserving the history of the town, which includes the two villages and the town outside. In 2006, the Eastchester Historical Society went on to fulfill its mission to illustrate or designate houses of historic significance within the town ahead of a civic association. Not in Bronxville, but Bronxville would never have said this, said to us, there's nothing worth preserving. Well, there's so much worth preserving in our town. And and I want to introduce Lissa Halen, the curator of the Eastchester Historical Society. And during the pandemic, we met periodically, first on Zoom, then in people's backyard, to develop a historic illustrated map of Eastchester that Lissa Halen, our curator, spearheaded. And I want to turn the talk over to Lissa, and I'll follow up at the end. Lissa Halen?
Thank you all. Good evening. I'm here very proudly and also humbly to represent the Eastchester Historical Society, which is an all-volunteer board. As Richard said, I'm the curator. Sometimes I call myself the custodian because we are the custodians of the Marble Schoolhouse and the entire site. We thank Bronxville, the mayor, the board, and also the Bronxville Historical Conservancy, who has the same goal that we have, which is not just to preserve our history, but to share our history. And our pandemic project tried to think of something that would accomplish this goal. And we came up with creating an illustrated map, a gorgeous illustrated map.
Pass that to the trustees to take a look. Sure.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Because we wanted to have a way to remind our community of the very, very, very rich history that we have, as everybody knows from the 350th, how old our history is, but also how rich it is. And Eastchester's history, and Bronxville and Tuckahoe, it really follows the trajectory of American history, and that's what we put on the map. We decided that we had to somehow come up with some kind of parameters. Maps convey sense of time and place. Our map conveys the time prior to 1900, the turn of that century, because up until that time, the community was one community. Actually, even at one point went as far south as Co-op City. So we decided on the parameter of any building, as Elton John's saying, still standing, that is still standing, that would be illustrated by a local historic illustrator. We actually started out with a huge map that we did hand-drawn, and we said we have to do something to make this a better map. And the community fund gave us a grant to hire an historic illustrator. So it's due to the historic illustrator and the input of all of the historians, including Richard. We had Rita, Lisa Brown, Angela Sorgi, Elizabeth DePippo, a group of 6 of us, as Richard said. Tonight, we are proud to present the map to the village of Bronxville. We are hoping that you will put it up somewhere and remind people of how rich our history is. The map comes with an insert of each of the sites, describing just briefly each of the sites. The other thing is that maps convey a sense of place, so we put anything within those borders, again, that still stands today, and we're always still happy that Bronxville and Tuckahoe have remained part of our town. It's a pleasure for all of us, I think, to join, and I hope this map shows how these communities are so intertwined. The map pays homage really to the growth of how our community flourished for over 350 years, when you think about it, and each site contributed in some way to the evolution of the wonderful community that we all now live in. On the map, we have law represented by our covenant. Richard is our expert on the covenant. I will never try to explain it because he does a much better job than I will ever do. The one thing he always talks about is how when it was drawn up, it was set to ensure the well-being of those 10 families. And Richard has always believed it continues to ensure the well-being of all of our communities. We have industry represented on the map by the quarries, the mills, Depot Square, and the Masterton House. Now, the Masterton was one of the original quarry owners, and again, it shows how intertwined everything that we do in Eastchester, Tuckahoe, and Bronxville has been done for 350 years together. Religion is represented by the Reformed Church nearby here. Education is represented by the Marble Schoolhouse. What better way than to represent the evolution of our suburbs than Lawrence Park? So there are the pillars to some of the entrances to Lawrence Park. You cannot select one particular picturesque, architecturally designed home without thinking you're insulting all the others. So nestled among those bucolic woods in Lawrence Park are these gorgeous homes, and again, we're just so proud to have that as part of our community, and for Lawrence Park, as Bronxville has had Kenneth Jackson as a speaker, and he has called Lawrence Park the model of a railroad suburb, and it's a wonderful way to describe it. Now, travel is represented by the horses. It also is the New York City connection. All along the Hutchinson River, California Road, Post Road, White Plains Road, stables and inns were all along there. It was very prestigious to be able to be there because it was the line from New York City up through Danbury and eventually up through Boston. One of the roads was originally called the Danbury Post Road even because it went up to Danbury from New York City on a daily basis at one point in time. So it moved goods, it moved people, and it moved mail. And so horses was such an important part of the growth of all of, as I said, this follows the trajectory of American history to the growth of all of us. And again, another way to connect everything, The owners of the stables at Gramerton Hotel in the 1920s bought some of the stables along California Road and owned them for a while. So again, you know, it's amazing how we are all so interconnected. Mayor Marvin, we would like to...
Well, we appreciate this, and we thank you both. Thank you.
Oh, this is theirs?
Oh, this is yours, correct?
This is your prop.
Well, thank you both, and it will have a place of honor, and we just thank you both for coming tonight, and we got a nice little history lesson before we start all our rather dull business, so thank you both very, very much.
Just one last item I'd like to add, and that's the Eastchester Covenant. Mayor Marvin, I know you, on June 24th, 1664, you signed the Eastchester Covenant on our 350th anniversary.
I did.
And was there anybody else on the board that signed it on that
I
day?
think Robert was there.
Right.
Were you there to?
What year was that?
When we did the anniversary, we signed a little ceremonial, and I believe you did as well. Yeah.
Sitting in the audience, I'm not the leading expert on the Eastchester Covenant. Robert Weir sitting here, and I have his book, definitive book on covenants, and that's all I'd like to add.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks to all the volunteers who worked so hard in our community. And just as a little aside, this was a labor of love and Legos, by the way, because we first drew this huge map and we put my grandson's Legos for the different sites. So it was a way to kind of find out some placement, and a little wine and pizza helped too.
Thank you. Thanks to both our groups who did such nice presentations tonight. On to the mayor's report, and mine will be quick because we have a full docket here tonight. As many of you know, we're really working on the walkability of the village and the infrastructure, so the top and the bottom of the village. And just a couple favors. We have been walking with folks from the county who are giving us some expert advice how to make the village more walkable. And some things they immediately noticed that we need our residents to help us with is honestly trimming of plants and hedges, because they're making the sight lines very, very difficult, especially on corners. And in many cases, they're also overhanging the sidewalks to a point that people have to walk in the road to walk from their homes to, for example, town. So we're just asking if residents would do a little inventory, and of course a reminder that the sidewalk in front of your home is your responsibility for its maintenance and upkeep. So if everyone would just check this spring, we had a lot of water, so the hedges are huge, and we just need you to partner with us to make it easier to walk in the village. And then just on the our infrastructure, we would ask people to ask. We have found that folks often don't know that their sump pumps are sending basement water into our sanitary system, which is then overwhelming the sanitary system. And we would ask people to just have this checked by their plumber, because this happened a great deal during our Hurricane Ida aftermath. And then finally, people will see some tree planting down in the edges of downtown. We've done a lot in the business district, but we're doing some, for example, near the towers, thanks to Boulder Ledge Garden Club, who raised money for us for sort of sidewalk tree planting. So you'll see some new trees, and it's a thank you to Boulder Ledge. And that's my report. Mr. Palmer and trustees, if anyone wants to add anything at any time, just step in.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items. Just a reminder to all, for any confusion over the board's passage of the leaf blower ordinance, that the ban on the prohibition of the use of gas power blowers does not go into effect until December 15th. So that's December 15th. And that first phase will be in effect from December 15th to March 15th. However, we do ask for residents' assistance with making sure that your gardener slash landscaper does have a permit issued from the village. That is currently a requirement, that all landscapers have a permit from the village. And if they don't have a permit, or if you're not sure, we'd be happy to look up their permit and their name in our database. And that's important because we do want to send to all the landscapers a copy of the ordinance that's to go into effect in December. So just wanted to mention that. And then, of course, in conjunction with leaves, just the usual, we do really, please do not, if there's one thing we've learned from the recent storm event, is that anything that can clog the catch basin is just going to be detrimental to the immediate neighboring resident and, frankly, the roadways. So please don't let landscapers put the leaves into the road and on top of the catch basin. In conjunction with what the mayor was mentioning regarding the complete streets, I just thought I'd mention that the village did do we've been continuing to do the striping of crosswalks, and we got a lot done this weekend with the rain holding off. But many of you might notice an additional striping, a continuation, if you will, from the striping at the edge of the curve on Midland down at Masterton. We've now taken that all the way up to Tanglewild, and we're testing the effectiveness on that additional striping out a few feet from the curb to shrinking the width of the roadway and its potential to reduce the traffic flow. So I've already got a couple of calls on that asking about that, and they thought it was a good idea. And I hadn't had a chance to mention the board, but we did have our bid opening for the stairs on Bacon Woods. We continue to break this project up. And something else I didn't have a chance to mention in our work session, but I'll send all of you an email on getting your support on, is the tentative agreement that I reached with the Hillcrest residents, allowing us to tap into their water so we could do the irrigation system for that park next year. But we did just receive the bids back for the stairs, and the bid range was, there were two bids within $1,000 of each other at around $256,000. So I'm looking at those bids with our landscape architect. It's more competitive than it was a couple of years ago, but just for the public edification, just to put a new set of stairs from Kensington Road to Sagamore Road is $250,000. And then Steve and I will be meeting with some residents of Beech Tree Lane tomorrow to go over again what can be done on Beech Tree Lane, trying to work out a little partnership with the residents to get them to improve their sidewalks and raise their curbing, and then we can raise the curbing on the other side. And just again, thanks for everyone's patience on the Con Ed projects. Vine Street gas work was finally complete. The road was finally paved last week. I'm trying to help a couple of the residents out who were notified by Con Ed that they need to upgrade their gas service as a result of the new lines put in. It was a little disconcerting to them. And Mike Smith with Con Ed is being very helpful to try to seek reimbursement from those residents. And then right now, Con Ed is doing repairs on Parkway Road, and we have notified all the tenants over at the complex on the corner, which extends from Kohl's all the way down to the, I guess it's the Bank of America on the corner now. The water company had a water break, and when they did the water repair back over the summer, they came too close to the gas line, so then Con Ed had to come out and is putting a new gas line in that stretch, and they'll be out for into early next week. So we've been trying to encourage patrons of those establishments to park in the Parkway Road lot in the short term at no expense. And that's it, sorry.
Okay.
Jim, what are we doing to communicate the change in the leaf blower law?
We
It
are,
just seems like we need to,
Yeah,
this is a lot of work went into this, and it seems like we need to really make a concerted effort to communicate to residents what has been passed by the trustees and what the effective dates are. Because no one,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big,
And if we didn't already, we are notifying every one of the landscaping companies and providing them a copy of the local law. And we have sent email blasts out to the residents. We did include it in the newsletter. But Stephen, we can send something out,
but
follow
even
up.
we can do an e-alert when it comes
Yeah.
a week before the
Yeah.
time. Let's send an e-alert out, but let's really make a really strong effort to communicate, and then we can do some enforcement.
because I even got a call today that somebody saw someone using one, and then I had to call them back and say it was legal right now. So I don't think it's bad to remind them, even in the quote off-season, that
Sure,
if they hear something now, the person is following the law.
When do those notices go to all the residents about the garbage collection days? Is that January, where that
January.
nice colored printout goes? Maybe that can be included on that too, because I think residents actually read that, you know,
That's
when
great.
the bulk pickups are, all those,
A lot of people put them on the refrigerators,
Exactly.
they tell me, so that's
when do I
an,
have to take the garbage out?
yeah,
Sure.
good, okay. All right, now I need a motion to approve 2 sets of minutes from our work session and our regular meeting from September 13, 2021. Do I have a motion? So moved. And a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, and then I need a motion to open a public hearing to discuss a local law to amend the code of the village, Chapter 290, by restricting parking on and vehicle access to Palumbo Place. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, the hearing is open. Mr. Palmer, do you want to give a quick recap, and then the trustees speak first? And then if there's anyone in the audience who wants to talk about the item up for the public hearing, they'll have a time at this moment.
Sure, and just for the public edification, copies of the proposed ordinance are on the table over here, and there's also a sketch of the proposed layout for Palumbo, and that's identified with 2 pages, since the length of the street is such. We broke that down to 2 pages so it could be legible. Essentially, as you know, Palumbo has been everything over the past 25-plus years. That being traffic flowing from Midland down to Gramerton, traffic from Gramerton down to Midland, and then both ways at times. The proposal before you, in the interest of the safety of all the 20-plus DPW employees that work right along that stretch where our DPW facilities are, is that we go back to the plan that was in place at one point in time, where the cemetery and the rear of Alden Place would exit to the right to Gramerton Avenue, where residents, parkers can then go either make a left turn down Gramerton towards Pondfield towards the signal, or make a right. And as additional background, from Alden Place, you can only exit onto Palumbo. There's no entrance from Palumbo. So that will remain, but the residents from Alden Place now, as opposed to the current plan where they're making a left down Palumbo towards Midland, they would be making a right. And just to back it up, the first section from Midland to the rear of the employee parking lot, that would remain as two-way to the employee lot. And then the area in between where the DPW is would be for use by the DPW employees only. And then again, at the curb cut for the cemetery and Alden Place, they would exit to the right.
And I think it's important to also know that in conjunction with this, the 3 intersections that are around Palumbo are all going to be upgraded at the same time. The Gramerton Midland intersection is getting a new light, new timing, et cetera. Midland Pondfield, new light, new timing, Ped Crossing, and then the other one that drives everybody crazy down by Alden Place and Craft Avenue is also going to be rewired to be in better sync. So those 3 upgrades, and we think that will speed the traffic. And honestly, I felt like on Pondfield, and I think we went, and rightfully so, for the safety of the workers on this one.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that was paramount.
And I should just clarify too, yes, and some residents of Alden Place did ask me about the striping at Midland and Craft, just for clarification. A portion of Midland Avenue where it goes over the Bronx River and the Springbrook Parkway is county-owned. The county had a striping company that came in and extended that striping across Alden Place, the entrance of Alden Place. That needs to be removed. I discussed that with our striping company. The village didn't know about it. The striper just extended it. So that area will be removed so people can, as they have been, exit and enter from Alden Place along Midland Avenue, and we will brighten that stop bar back to keep the cars back. There's been, so I did get some of that comment from residents of Alden Place. I just wanted to mention that.
Trustees, any other comments on this? I think
I think Jim forgot to talk about the bike lane as well. Jim,
Yes.
if you want to...
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, minor details. First, as part of this project, the village extended a sidewalk into the city of Mount Vernon to provide access to pedestrians and bikers. So now there is a new sidewalk that extends from the intersection of Gramerton to the edge of the curb cut for the exit for the cemetery. And from that point down, there will be a pedestrian slash bike lane along the edge of that southerly curb line all the way down to Midland. And that'll be something that was not there previously, because now there won't be any parking along Palumbo. And this is frankly very consistent with the county's plan of trying to provide alternate access for someone to access the Scout field area. And anyway, to make it safer. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
thank you.
I think one point that the mayor mentioned in our working session was that she had polled other communities to see whether any other communities had DPWs that were on a public thoroughfare as opposed to a sort of dead-end dedicated space. And I think the mayor indicated that there were no other such communities like ours. And when you think of our staff, DPW have to back up these enormous trucks, conduct other operations, and to think that they've been doing that for years, backing onto a public street, it's really past time that we created a safe area for them, and by extension, safe passage or safe rules for our own drivers, because it's really not the type of space that there should be public traffic for everybody's sake. So just wanted to emphasize the mayor's comments on safety in that regard being paramount.
And I will tell you, I got answers from a little over 20 other communities, so it was a pretty wide conversation, saying none of them, they had DPW yards that were not on public roads. So
I think this is a really well thought out plan. I mean, it's very complicated. There are a lot of constituents and stakeholders in this space, in addition to the DPW and the police and the fire department, and pedestrians, Alden Place, the cemetery. So I commend everybody who worked on this plan to make it so efficient. And I just think that, I think many residents were concerned that it was going to eliminate, the ability to avoid some of the busiest corners of traffic, in the Pondfield Midland area. But as the mayor said, I think improvement and the upgrade in the signalization on those main intersections is going to have a huge difference. So I think it'll really improve that traffic situation downtown. So I think altogether this is a good plan.
I obviously second what both trustee Fredericks and trustee Knapp said. And I'd also like to note that what we talked about at our last meeting with the food refuel, the refuge bin, is going to be put into the parking lot, and you'll be able to come in Midland, drop it off, and go back out Midland. You'll still be able to have a two-way with regard to that.
Perfect. I think we had a lot of moving parts on this one, because I know the Green Committee really wants to start the food scrap program.
And more.
Yes,
And
yeah.
there-
Yeah.
we had a very good visit at the Scarsdale DPW, and the amount of other things that they're recycling that we could also potentially fit into that area is kind of exciting.
Oh, and Mary, I think Jim also forgot that senior citizens also would have the ability to come in Midland, get dropped off at Village Hall, and then come back out Midland as well, and up
Right.
to the, up top, and be able to get dropped off and come out. So that wouldn't prohibit that as well.
Right, because they were another constituent group, because they meet at the Reformed
There'll be-
Church.
Right, there will be a limit, right, there'll be a certain number of spaces, public spaces in the new lot, yes, because again, we've eliminated those angle spaces in front of the firehouse. So, yep, that'll be designated as such
In the new lot.
in the new lot, 4-hour parking, yep.
Okay, now if there's anybody in the audience that just wants to talk to the Palumbo Place changes, you're welcome. If you would just tell us who you are.
Two brief things. David Weir, manager of Bronxville Cemetery, living next door to the firehouse. I'd prefer if, I'll give you my preference, I'm not opposed to everything here, that people from the cemetery and people from Alden Place be allowed to turn left. I think there are fewer cars there are not that many cars that would make that much of a difference, but I think we can work with the situation. One other thing, though, with this whole setup, we have noticed in the cemetery that as you come out that exit of the cemetery, there have been quite a few trash cans and garbage cans out there. We hope that those can be put out of sight.
It's all going to be, it needs to be cleaned up, and it will be cleaned up, absolutely.
The brickwork, actually, around the old DPW really needs to be worked on. That supports the Pachysandra patches there. That needs to be worked on, pointing and repair. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else wants to speak to the Palumbo Place changes? No? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Now we go on to our first resolution, which is adopting a speed hump or bump policy. I'm not sure what the difference is, so, but Mr. Palmer, I just might want to say briefly, residents have asked for these as a traffic calming device, and again, we reached out to the state vehicle and traffic code. Yeah?
Mayor, just
Yeah.
on the Palumbo Place, is it germane to have the board vote on adapting the proposed local law?
Yep,
having closed the hearing?
you did close the public hearing, so if you want to.
Can we vote on it
Sure,
tonight?
if you
All
want to
right,
take action
thank
on
you.
that now or after the other items, entirely up to you.
Yeah, I would so move
Okay.
the adoption of proposed local law 11/2021, and would just further note that with regard to the comment about allowing an exception for Alden in the cemetery, of course, we always value public comments, but personally, I think that creating an exception just creates an enforceability issue and an exception to the safety concerns. So having heard the comment, I'm still happy to move the resolution as it's currently written.
And I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'm glad we have two lawyers down at that end, right? Thank you, gentlemen. Oh, back to my speed bumps. we have a policy, we just wanted something coherent because frankly, some of the speed bumps that you see, not nearby, but, throughout the state are not legal speed bumps. And so we have a policy that adheres to both the New York State traffic law and also honors neighborhoods coalescing around the issue. So because speed bumps do involve signage and bright paint and bumps. And so folks who really want to look into this, we will now have some guideposts which other communities have used in the past. Is that pretty much succinct on that one?
Absolutely.
Okay. Trustees, any other comments on this? I know
I think
this.
it's very useful to have a framework for a decision-making process as opposed to having it be completely subjective.
Right.
And so this is a way for individuals and community groups to assess whether this would be viable or not.
Well said.
And then this also allows, to the extent there's a strong case that's made and an appeal is made to the board would then have the leeway to modify
Right.
some element of this. But I think it's very useful to have an objective set of guidelines. And it helps, this really helps outline that this is putting in speed bumps is a very complex issue.
Way more complex than I knew.
Yeah.
Would this be in the village code? Would they be able to look on our website and see this? Will it be kind of listed somewhere as?
Yeah.
Yeah, as it's written here, it's going to be a
Policy.
policy.
It would not normally be
in the code, right.
in the village code.
But we could put it on the
That being
website.
said,
Just so people can-
we'll absolutely post it on the website so people can easily,
Look it
consider it
up.
for their neighborhood.
Also, when we get questions on, or is it viable, what are the rules, now we have it, just policy.
Staff will know to be able
Yeah,
to,
be able to show
make it
and be able to
available.
give, so the residents can evaluate if they want to propose one for their neighborhood.
Okay, then do I have a motion to accept our policy?
if I just may, were you going to consider it in conjunction with the two changes that you considered in the work session, which is the clarification under the eligible residential street on the bullet of no through commercial traffic, clarifying that to be not designated for through commercial traffic, and then removing the criteria of at least 500 vehicles per day and less than 2,500 per day.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, with the two changes, thank you. Then I need a motion subject to those two changes.
And I'll second subject to those changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And Mr. Palmer, you do Resolution B, because you have done all the work on this. He has just taken care of infrastructure.
Yes, so this is just requesting the board's approval of and authorizing the award of what we're calling Contract 2021, number 01, which is for Phase 3 sanitary sewer cleaning, televising, and lining to the one bidder, the one low bidder, Green Mountain Pipeline Services Incorporated, whom we have used before. And this would be for the next phase involving all the streets located along the west side of the village, as well as sections of Midland that were not previously cleaned and televised.
And Jim, when you say phases, how many phases are there and how many phases have been completed?
So we've entirely completed phases 1 and 2. This is phase 3, and we have a phase 4 currently on the drawing board, if you will. That'll be probably coming in early 2022. And these phases have been over the course of 7+ years now to get us to this point. So, yes, and for
Phase 4 will be the final phase of this process?
there'll probably be other phases. There'll probably be other phases. There absolutely will be other phases after that. I mean, as everyone understands, work on our sanitary sewer system is ongoing, but over the course of the past 7 years, we've been playing catch-up. But the focus right now has been on all the principal trunk lines, and then we will start cleaning and televising for more of those secondary and tertiary lines. But great progress. And for Phase 2, and along with Phase 3 and Phase 4, just a reminder to everyone that we have received matching grants from the New York State Department of Environmental Facilities, so that's a real positive thing. So again, awarding that first contract to Green Mountain Pipeline Services in an amount not to exceed $1,500,065.
So do I have a motion?
Can I just say that?
Yes.
As a new trustee, that this continues on with your doing the environmentally friendly piping, the non-styrene.
Styrene for the lining component,
Thank
yes.
you.
Yep.
Good,
Just wanted to point that
important
out.
distinction.
Yep.
Yeah, it's more expensive, but it's worth it.
And just to note for the record that the village administrator did include in his package a letter from PCI Professional Consulting endorsing acceptance of the bid, and I'm advised by village council. The village council also reviewed the bid as required, and so it all seems in order, despite it being $250,000 above the estimate. I'm certainly comfortable, given that, as Mr. Palmer has said, it's a contractor that we've dealt with before. I think, sometimes you're certainly happy to pay a little bit more to have a vendor who you have confidence in, particularly where it's the only vendor.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Right. And it's worth noting, we again, when we put these proposals out there, we publish them in the official newspaper. We go above and beyond the. Our professional consultants sent this to multiple companies, and for the reasons described in your packet, other companies did not bid on the work. But the materials, price of materials have absolutely gone up, and that's something that we verified. But still competitive.
Then do I have a motion to accept this bid?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And then, Mr. Palmer, do you want to talk? There's two that relate to the library heating and air conditioning system.
Right, so the first one is for the board authorizing improvements to the Jaeger room component of the HVAC system, upgrades and related equipment, and to further authorize and also accept a DASNY grant through the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York to be executed by me as village administrator, and this is through the efforts of Assemblywoman Amy Paulin's office. So the next couple items relate to the library, but this is for acceptance of this SAM grant for $125,000, which has been awarded to the village thanks to our Assemblywoman and the efforts of the library team and library director, and then to authorize the village to execute this specific grant disbursement agreement.
Okay, I will happily move that. Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
And I think we should express, as a board, we should express our gratitude to Amy Paulin
Yes.
for her support to the village, and also extend our thanks and gratitude to Greg at the library for his efforts to get that grant.
Absolutely.
Great. And the next item is also at the HVAC system, and I explained to you, this is simply clarification for the previous HVAC work, which was done, which commenced 2 years ago for the replacement of the compressors and the enlarged pit outside the library. That project, which cost over $1 million, included and was largely dependent on a $250,000 SAM grant through the Dormitory Authority, which was also provided as a result of Amy Paulin and the work of the library director and library board. And as I said, the process for getting the reimbursement for these monies from the state is lengthy. It's absolutely well worth it. But here we're just clarifying in this resolution, even though the board previously accepted, that we're specifically, now that we just received the terms of the grant disbursement agreement, and that village council has also read that disbursement agreement, that the board is authorizing me to enter into the terms of the disbursement agreement for that $250,000 grant from 2 years ago.
So do I have a motion to let Mr. Palmer sign, enter into our past agreement?
I'll move that.
Yeah.
Yep, second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Yes, yep. Was that you,
I'll just
trustee
put
Meredith,
in
who did that second?
a plug for my sister, is the head of conservation of the Morgan Library in New York, and who points out that conservation really starts with the HVAC system, and this isn't just keeping
Yeah.
patrons comfortable, it really is essential to,
Papers.
papers, almost anything the library has. So this is not only comfort for users, but really is essential to everything that we have libraries for.
Right, on that point, trustee Fredericks, yeah, I had to say, the library director and the library board, and of course, many of you have been discussing this the HV system at the library really is very complex, because that library expanded over time. And I got to say, the library director has done a great job monitoring it, because what you had previously approved at last month's meeting, I think, was tying the HVAC system into a software building management system, and that earlier grant that we just talked about, the approved SAM grant of $125,000, that too is going to tie the system, will be tied into that software system. So it is important, and for the public, we continue to talk about the HVAC, but when it was first presented to the board, improvements with the library HVAC system were over $1.5 million, which is significant by any measure. So we had a phase-in approach to that system. So yeah, thanks to all. And anyway.
Okay. Then I've got my motions there. So we're just moving on to the fund transfer.
Yes, housekeeping item on the subject of SAM grants. This is compliments. We had previously received a $250,000 grant from Senator Mayer for the work to the underpass, which involved shoring up and replacement of some of the steel, repairs to the steel column work. Anyway, this is simply utilizing $78,344 from our unassigned fund balance to the capital project, as the treasurer, who's back once again, working at trying to clean up our capital project schedule, is requesting the authority to transfer these monies from the unassigned fund balance so we can close this project out for the underpass work. And again, the $78,000 is principally for the construction management services we had of WSP, and also some of their design and bid work. This was a very complex project. You needed a very specific engineer to do this work. So that's what that's for.
Before I take a motion, we owe a great deal of thanks to Senator Mayer for getting us $250,000 to fix a lot of structural issues over there. And a thank you to our treasurer, who always comes to our meetings, Lori Boss, and keeps us on point and on target. So
We missed you.
yes, thank you for being here.
Can I just ask, wasn't this supposed to be like cleaned up in terms of like aesthetically? I know all the structural work has been done. Wasn't there talk about more, painting and lighting and things at the MTA?
We have to find more money.
We had to
I thought
find,
the MTA was going to, no?
the MTA, they didn't contribute anything. So the cosmetic work, we did put a new railing up, We also replaced sections of the sidewalk, and we put some cosmetic brick. And believe it or not, we did paint the front of the steel beams at the entrance to the underpass, and just to paint one of those sections of steel beams, that in of itself over $25,000. But most of the work was and believe it or not, they actually also painted the retaining wall underneath the underpass. But most of that work, and I could provide that breakdown for you, was for the steel repairs. They literally had to jack up the bridge, cut the beam, put a new steel plate on each side, and a lot of work on rivets and bolts and.
But
yes,
Trustee Knapp's point, we have to find some source of what happened when MTA's ridership went down to 10% during COVID. So did their capital program. I mean, it's
Because we talked a lot about like, linking that side of the town and all the businesses to the other side and having it more walkable and nice looking to walk under. So I think we just need to keep that.
exactly.
On the front burner or something.
There was some, and I should say they did put some LED lighting in, but you know what, we held that project up for a certain period of time. I met with multiple representatives from Metro North. They're all out there scratching their head, well, not sure what we can do, but, and sure, we don't have anything on the capital program, but what was really interesting, at one point in time, the Conservancy, I think, really wanted to contribute to put historic murals on the underpass, and I believe part of that challenge or a concern to them is we need to stop the water from above. And so really, the answer is that, you know what, I will write to the MTA tomorrow morning because I document the water coming from that underpass, because the water from the underpass, from railroad crossing above is dripping down onto the walls and staining the walls. But I think the Conservancy was willing to do some.
But they wanted to make sure it was
understandably, yeah.
structurally sound before, and I don't blame them. But you are right, whenever we have people come in and talk about vibrant shopping, they just think that underpass is the ugliest thing in the village, and it probably is. So you're right, that should be front burner on the cosmetic side now. All right, so do I have a motion to make the fund transfer?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And I will just do the second to the last one, only because it's sort of a source of real joy that we work so well with the town of Eastchester and the village of Tuckahoe, and we keep sharing more things, buying more things together, and it's saving us all, volume discounts on blacktop. And for example, we all need our own snow plows because no one's going to wait until 11 o'clock till Tuckahoe's finished plowing, but we all don't need the sewer cleaners. So we've started to buy specialized equipment with each other and then frankly just share it. And I just think we have to do more of it. So this just keeps the relationship going to buy and share municipal assets.
I missed it. How long is it for?
Don't we just do this yearly, Jim?
Is it a yearly agreement or?
We usually just do it every
You know
year.
what, this one, we always do the paving, and we always do the paving annually.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
this one is actually, it was really for the purposes the mayor mentioned of sharing,
It has no
sharing of
time.
equipment, and we don't have a date, and it really is for the
Stays in
purposes.
effect unless either party cancels it.
Okay, so it could, okay.
And it really is just, it just gives us that belts and suspenders in the event, as has happened before, if we're borrowing a piece of equipment and the truck gets into an accident, we can provide this to the insurance company and we'll ensure that we get continued coverage and so forth. So, yeah, so I guess there is no end date on this.
It's evergreen. Thank you.
But it's a real positive thing for being able to share and cover some.
Right, I just wanted to
I'll
be sure
second it.
there wasn't another.
Okay, all those in favor?
I did look at it.
Opposed? Motion passes. And then, Jim, do you want to do the last one?
Sure.
And then-
Yeah, this is the first change to the Urban County Corporation Agreement that you, to the Urban County Consortium Agreement that you approved back in the spring. This is the first amendment to that. I know Village Council has reviewed that amendment, said there's no material differences to what you executed. Jim, is there any way you can summarize any of what this amendment is, or?
There was a paragraph in the agreement that you already approved that incorporated by reference some statutes and regulations, federal statutes and regulations, in general terms, but it was clear what they were. And now the county has said that the federal government insists that notwithstanding, they each be more specifically listed. And that's what is done in the amendment. But it was clear what they were previously, and we knew what they said and so forth, so.
So they just got enumerated, kind of.
They want them.
Yeah.
They want them more enumerated, I think more to give them comfort that people really understand when they read.
What they read.
What,
They signed on
what
to.
they're signing on to, which is a good idea.
Yeah.
So we're obviously new to this. Do you think there'll be more amendments as we go along, or is this, I mean, I guess we won't know until we get them.
Probably, I suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so do I have a motion to accept this amendment?
So moved.
And a second.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And trustees, did we forget anything? That's the end of formal business.
I was just going to say hats off to the Tuckahoe and Bronxville Police Department this evening. They did a shared pizza event at the community center in Tuckahoe. The mayor and I had an opportunity to go, and it was quite well attended by mostly Tuckahoe residents, but it was the counter to what we had done here in Bronxville. And it was nice to see the continued cooperation of the two police departments, and it was a lovely event, and the pizza was great.
And Eastchester came.
And Eastchester came too, yes.
And Eastchester came, and they bought pizza at 3 different places, one in each municipality.
What was the best? Do they,
Bronxville
was there-
pizza.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course, of course.
But it was outdoors at their community center. It was really nice. It was. We enjoyed ourselves.
And then, Mary, did you want to talk about Halloween at all, given that we weren't able to put it in the newsletter because it was evolving, but that the parade was going to be, it's back on for Friday, October 29th?
Right. And
After school?
right after school, and starting at the Bronxville, the front entrance to the Bronxville School at the end of the school day. And they're going to do their walk around the street. And I think everybody waited for Dr. Fauci before anybody said anything. So I think Halloween is a go in Bronxville. So,
Hopefully, they'll all be wearing masks.
yeah, good.
One way or the other.
Yeah. Touche. Any other? No, seeing none. Anybody in the audience like to talk about any topic, they are welcome to at this time. Just, if you don't mind giving us your name. No?
Mayor, I don't know, did you want to mention that we, I believe we are going to record the workshop on Friday for the Complete Streets? I don't know if you want to mention.
Oh, we
So
are
people who aren't
having
there will be able to
a
see.
workshop on, it's called Complete Streets, and it's kind of helping us get a walkable route to the school. It's kind of
That's a great idea.
a narrow but important focus from trying to get from across 22 to the Bronxville School in the safest way possible. And we can only have a limited number of people at it, so we made the decision to record it so anybody can watch it and hear what the experts say.
Not live or later, a recording that can be accessed later?
Access later, yep.
Okay. And then what is the date of our November meeting? Just so I announce it. I always never know my second Monday.
Let me get my calendar, I failed to.
And that's not Veterans Day, is it? Does it move?
It looks like it's going to be November 8th. That is not Veterans Day. So
Okay.
Monday, November 8th.
So we will see. I need a motion then to close this meeting on, and then we'll meet again on November 8th.
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.